Hello, so I bought one of these. So this is obviously the head of a halberd, and it's a German style halberd rather than a Swiss crescent sort of halberd. So this is for obviously using in videos, but what I've had to order as well obviously for it is the pole to put it on, because some of you might have remembered when I think I spoke about it during one of the live streams. I was interested in getting a billhook pole arm. And the only versions of those I could find was to buy the cold steel one, and that was I think about £140 from most retailers plus postage. And the thing I didn't like with that is that it didn't have the authentic kind of shining metal look to it. It had the kind of blackened stuff on it, and that's good in a sense because it means it's less likely to rust, but it's a bit annoying if you want something that looks more like an actual thing. So obviously what I decided to do was have a look around at what other pole arms are available. Very few places sell pole arms assembled. With most you have a massive selection of heads and sort of spearheads as well, and then you can buy the sort of shafts for them separately. So I couldn't find somewhere that had both the pole arm head I wanted and the shaft in one place. So what I've opted for is to order the shaft from one place, and that should come a bit later on. By the time this video goes live I might already have the head, sorry, the pole, but when obviously that comes I will assemble it and do videos testing it. So this pole head, like sort of halberd head, was only about 30 odd pounds, and it's all steel construction, as you can probably hear. It's one that came sharp, and if you wanted to use it for reenactment use you'd have to blunt it. So this point here isn't super sharp, but with enough speed obviously and weight behind the halberd it would be pretty efficient. So this is one of these things where I might sharpen it up. I might probably test it as is and see if I like it. So this point isn't super sharp, this point here is quite sharp, and again this point here is sharp, but this is not sharp at all on here. Now some halberds, as far as I'm aware, did have like a false edge on here, it wasn't actually sharp, and others were sort of axe sharp. But again, the full weight of the halberd, this coming down, it wouldn't be nice to be hit by this even if it's not sharp, so this is one where I may sharpen it. This point here is mediocrely sharp, I guess you'd say. This is the one though I think which is designed for swinging to take people off of horseback. So although this is not obviously what I'm going to be attaching it to, I've got a proper ash spear shaft coming which is about 6 foot long, and it's octagonal, which is better for using with pole arms, for a reason I'll go into in a second. For just demonstrating this now, I can force a broom handle onto the shaft. So because I've obviously not done the wood screws in, this isn't going to be ideal to have on here, so I'll just hold it like this. But due to edge alignment, it's better to always have a square or like hexagonal or octagonal pole arm pole, and the reason being is not simply just for the reason of putting screws through. It's obviously better on something that's squared on the side there for the screws. Part of the reason is that when you are using a halberd, this is going to be quite difficult to demonstrate in here, like with most weapons, if the easier it is to know where the edge is for when you're swinging it or thrusting it or whatever, the better. So obviously edge alignment's important on a sword, obviously, because if you hack with a sword and you don't land the blade properly where you're aiming for, which is one of the things that's surprisingly hard to use with a sword that most people don't realise until they actually pick one up and try and use it, it's very difficult to chop efficiently with it, because you're not necessarily always going to bring the blade in at the exact angle it should come in. So edge alignment's important. It's one of the reasons I'm going for a proper ash shaft rather than trying to find a long broom handle to mount it on. So in total, obviously because I've had to pay postage courier services twice from 2 different companies, it'll probably be somewhere between £80 and £90 by the time this halberd's finished price-wise. So what's going to go on with it obviously is when I've got the ash spear handle for it, so that'll be about 6 foot long. Hopefully it will go on to start with. If not, I'll have to sand down some of the sides of it or use a knife to whittle it down to get this on. Then I'll put my wood screws through. I'm not going to use rivets, I'm going to use wood screws just because that's more convenient in modern day. I'm not totally fussed if it doesn't look, you know, totally historically accurate because there's screws in there and not things. But then anyway, I will have a pole arm. So it should be fun to mess about with. So as I said, halberds were a pole arm. I'll go into this a bit more when I've got it finished off and ready to use. Another thing is you can order they're called butts, like metal butts for it, iron butts, whatever. They're on the very bottom of the pole. I was going to get those, but most places had them out of stock again, so I didn't want to order it from somewhere else and pay courier fees on that. I'll get one at a later point if I decide I have one, but you don't need one. It's just to make it a bit more, you know, balanced if you're grounding it against a cavalry charge. That's not why I've got a polearm anyway. So, let's look at the halberd. How effective would it be? Because obviously weapons like this became very common sort of through the middle to late medieval period and even beyond. You've got your main spike for thrusting, where you could use it like a spear. Again, there's not enough room inside to demonstrate this properly. You've got this to swing at a horseback, and obviously when it's mounted on I won't need to hold it as high up to keep this from flying off, but use that to take the rider off of a horse, and then you can finish him off on the ground. And then you either have this as a blunt crushing edge or a chopping edge if you were bringing it down on somebody when they're on the ground. This also would protect your hands, that being there, like that as well. And obviously this bit on here makes it more secure onto the pole, and it also means that somebody can't hack through that with a sword or something like that. So yeah, polearms are pretty efficient. Just think of them as tactical spears if you want to use terminology like that, because it can do everything a spear can do, plus more. So yeah, this broom handle is 4 foot if that it's on at the moment, but when I've got it on the actual pole that's coming, it should be somewhere between 6 and 7 foot, so that's going to be like up there. So it'll be well over my head, so that'll be quite fun to play about with, I reckon. So I said I may sharpen it, I'll see how I like it when I've got it, and then yeah, I'll have a polearm. As I said, the English bill I couldn't spot one that I liked, so I ended up going with the sort of typical German or Swiss halberd. As I said, it varies a bit, but this is what people think of when they think of halberds, so a nice one that actually reflects light, not being tactical black. And yeah, it should be good fun when I've actually got it set up and ready to use, so there we go. There'll be an update video when it's assembled and ready.